Hello and welcome to Sessions with Judith John. You can see the WhatsApp contact number on the screen and the mail address on which you can contact me for any queries. So let's start with today's session. In today's session, we are going to see the poem An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum. Before we go into the poem, I would request all of you to keep the textbook open and a pen or pencil in hand where you are going to mark everything so that when you sit to study later or prepare for your exams, you will have everything marked in your textbook. And right on top of the poem, you will see this question flash. Have you ever visited or seen an elementary school in a slum? What does it look like? Very few of us actually know about how a slum school looks. So I'm going to just show you some pictures which will give you an idea of the slum schools. Here you can see how the children are sitting on the floor. You can see the dirty classrooms, the walls not painted or maintained well. There's no fixed blackboard. The old style blackboard which is just made to stand with the support of the wall. A few charts hanging here and there. In the picture below, you can just see how there is no proper classroom at all. The teacher is using just the compound wall or just a wall by the side of the road, has painted part of it as black to create a blackboard. And the children are sitting just like that on the pavement, on the roads, which is not very much used. Pathetic condition, but yes, these are real life pictures. And look at poverty at its height, where children develop certain diseases only because of malnutrition. There is a mention in the poem about this, and that's the reason why I'm showing you this, about children having twisted bones, not maintaining good health because of poverty. So this is again another picture of the slums, how people actually live there. No proper pakka houses. Okay, and then the condition of the poor children who are forced to work, who are made to carry bricks, who are picking up garbage by the roadside with no enough food, and this is their life. Now, why these pictures? So that you will understand the poem better. For all those who have not seen the slums and the slum school, I hope this will help. So let's go to the poem. The poem has 4 stanzas. And if you look at the 4 stanzas of the poem, roughly, the poet has, specifically described certain things in each of the stanzas. In the first stanza, the poet describes a kind of children who come to the slum school. In the second stanza, he describes the kind of classroom they are sitting in. In the third stanza, the description of their living conditions, their homes, from which area they come. And in the fourth stanza, he gives us the message. What change the poet wants for these slum school children. So let's go ahead to do the poem in detail. So I hope whoever is watching, you are keeping your textbook ready open with a pen or pencil in hand. That's just a reminder. An elementary school classroom in a slum. Before we go ahead reading the poem, let's have a small reading of the poet. Our poet is Stephen Spender. Who is Stephen Spender? Stephen Spender was an English poet and an essayist. He left University College, Oxford without taking a degree and went to Berlin in 1930. Spender took a keen interest in politics and declared himself to be a socialist and pacifist. So, who is a pacifist? One who is against war and violence and believes in settling things peacefully with peaceful talks. Books by Spender include poems of dedication, The Edge of Being, The Creative Element, The Struggle of the Modern, and an autobiography, World Within World. In an elementary school classroom in a slum, he has concentrated on themes of social injustice and class inequalities. With your pencil, you can mark out the name of the poem, the title, which should be flawlessly written. You can't miss an or a written there. So completely an elementary school classroom in a slum, and the poet's name, which carries one mark. So Stephen Spender, clearly the name. What's important in this introduction part is what the poem is about. What is the poet talking about? He has concentrated on the themes of social injustice and class inequalities. This is something, when we talk about social injustice and class inequality, something that we are seeing it around, happening around. Okay, there are so many incidents in the news every day that we get to hear reports of where we see social injustice, where we see class inequalities. The difference, the discrimination between the poor and the rich always remains. Okay, even during this pandemic, all that has happened. For the poor, it was different. For the rich, it was different. So we have already discussed on the question about what is a slum, how does it look like, who are the children who live there, with the few slides that I just showed you. So this is their condition. They live in poverty. Now let's see what the poet talks about in this poem. We'll just go with one reading first and then stanza by stanza explanation. Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn around their pallor, the tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper-seeming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. At back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young, his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. On sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, civilized dome riding all cities, belled, flowery Tyrolese valley, open-handed map, awarding the world its world, and yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, were all their futures painted with a fog, a narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. Surely, Shakespeare is wicked, the map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal, for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes, from fog to endless night, on their slag heap. These children, where skins peep through by bones, and spectacles of steel with mended glass, like bottle bits on stones. All of their time and space are foggy slums, so blot their maps with slums as big as doom. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs break, oh break open till they break the town and show the children to green fields and make their world run azure on gold sands. and let their tongues run naked into books. The white and green leaves open. History theirs, whose language is the sun. So let's go to the very first stanza. And what's the poet doing here? He's giving us a glimpse of the kind of children who are coming to these schools, the slum school. So far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces. What's that? Far, far. First, to begin with, is a poetic device used over here, the figure of speech. So, repetition. Far, far. He didn't say simply far from gusty waves. Far, far. So he wants to show, although those children are living in the same city, how distant they are from others, from the rich, from those who have enough. Gusty waves, again, metaphor. Please mark out all these because they are all 1 mark questions. Okay. So far from, not really metaphorically far, not really in reality. There may be, see, there may be a high-rise building, all the rich living, and next to that the slums. But they are far away from the rich because their lives are totally different. These children's faces like rootless weeds. I think all of us know what weeds are. If we have a beautiful garden and there are weeds coming up regularly, we pull them out, and you don't need to put in a lot of effort to pull it out. The roots are not very deep. Easily you will pull it out and throw, because you want your other selected plants which you want in your garden to grow well. So we remove the weeds. How do these children's faces look and they feel like? They are like these rootless weeds, feel unwanted. The hair torn round their pallor. So what is a pallor? The pale face. Why pale face? You remember pale face in My Mother at 66? Dull, lacks all the shine, and usually children should be glowing. So here all that glow is not there. There's a tall girl with a weighed down head. Okay. Why? First of all, malnutrition. She's growing tall. She's not very healthy. And in shame, she has to put her head down and sit there. So many things are there in her head, but she's not able to live her life the way she wants. The paper seeming boy. The paper seeming boy. Paper seeming, very thin and delicate. See, that is the meaning. Very thin and delicate. So, with rat's eyes, there's one more thing you have to notice there. It's a metaphor. Why? Because the boy is being compared to like paper, thin and delicate he is. This with rat's eyes. So all this shows about the not so very good growth. The stunted and unlucky air of twisted bones. I showed you some pictures of how these children struggle because of the diseases they suffer with. Reciting a father's gnarled disease. Now let's look at it closely. Reciting is a pun. Pun is a poetic device or figure of speech where it has different meanings. So here reciting is not speaking or saying things. It's he is inherited his father's disease. Gnarled. What is gnarled? Made rough or worse by age or hard work. So this is the condition of these children. They walk around with twisted bones, with disease. His lesson from his desk. How will he be able to do his lesson sitting there in the classroom? At the back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young one fellow is sitting, one small boy. What is he doing? His eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. So how will you be able to concentrate on studies when you don't even have proper food? These children. What is the poet telling us? That he has, see the hair torn around the pallor, weight down head, paper seeming, boy, and someone with a disease. And all these are the kind of children who come here. When you don't have the basic need of food, shelter, and clothing, how do you think these people will be able to sit there and study? So he wants to do. Other than this is an alliteration. You can mark that out. What is an alliteration? The same similar sound being repeated. So other than this, the. Okay. So you can just mark that out. And so this in first stanza, we have seen the kind of children who come to this school. In the second stanza, let's go on to see the kind of classroom they come to. Okay. So on sour cream walls, why sour cream walls? Sour cream is also a pun. Why? Because sour cream doesn't, the very saying of that word sour cream doesn't make you feel nice. Cream has to be fresh, white. You know. In here, what is happening? It is sour cream, then dirty yellow. It doesn't end. So here, neglected, not maintained. I showed you some pictures of how the classrooms are there. They don't have enough money, no one cares, no one maintains. But what is there on these walls? Donations, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, Tyrrell's Valley. Oh, civilized dome riding all cities, belled flowery Tyrrell's Valley, and open-handed map awarding the world its world. But on the sides of the classroom walls, what is there? All these things are hanging. Donation papers, Shakespeare's picture, okay, and the picture of a city with all its domes and big buildings, beautiful picture of a city, and belled flowery Tyrrell's Valley. Okay, all these are hanging. Adding to this, also world map is hanging. Open-handed map awarding the world its world. All these are hanging on the walls. And yet for these children, these windows, not this map. Their world where all the futures painted with a fog, a narrow street sealed in with a lit sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. Why? In spite of having all these charts and pictures and world map hanging on the wall, for these children, what are these? These windows, are they windows of knowledge? Not this map. This is not what they are looking at. Their world. What is their world? Their world is different. Okay? Their world is different. Alright? What is their world? Filled with poverty. No proper houses, no proper food. So where we are showing them Shakespeare and all these beautiful buildings and beautiful valley out there. Okay. With all their futures painted with a fog. Why? See here, this is also a metaphor. He's comparing it. When there is fog around, how do we see? Can we see what is on the other side very clearly now? It's dull. You can't even see the other building. When there is severe winter and there is fog, you can't see what's on the other side. Their future is like that. It's all dull, covered, nothing. What kind of a future can they have? A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky. Okay. No? This is again a pun and a metaphor. Where there is no hope, no opportunities. Lead by itself, I think all of us know the color of lead itself is dark gray and it's heavy and it's not going to give any hope. Okay. So their sky is not like bright blue sky or anything. It's like a lead sky, gray, heavy sky out there. Far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. So far from. See what are capes? Headland lead extending into a body of water. That's a cape. We have the Cape of Good Hope. We have Cape. So you would have studied in your geography. Stars of words. Imagine you catch out of even when you are hungry, you feel hungry or you feel tired. Will you be able to sit and study very well and give your best shot? No. So those children are always hungry, tired, weak. They don't even get one meal properly. They are the poor children. So they are far from all these. So this is the condition of the classroom. Classroom decorated with all these given as donations by people maybe. There is no future in this classroom actually. Third stanza, he brings up some questions along with the condition, the living condition, their condition. Surely Shakespeare is wicked. The map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal. Surely Shakespeare is wicked. Why is Shakespeare referred to as wicked here? Why is the map a bad example? With ships and sun and love tempting them to steal. Shakespeare is wicked because Shakespeare talks about all love and everything rich and palace and kings and all beautiful things of life. Do these people really get to see those beautiful things in life? Their world is different, unlike what Shakespeare describes. The map is a bad example because the map is not going to show their slum. Map is not marking their slum. Map is showing all the beautiful cities and places and everything. Now, if it's a political map also, you can see only the countries and cities and everything marked. And if it is a physical map, you can still see all the beautiful landscapes, mountains and grasslands and so on. So it is a bad example because these people, their world is different for these children. With ships and sun and love tempting them to steal. If you show a beggar a palace, what and all the beautiful things or treasures, what are you doing to that person? You are tempting them to steal. You're showing all the beautiful things, ships. In sun, where do they have all this in their life? They are filled with only poverty, insecurity and poverty. For lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes from fog to endless night. That's a wonderful saying the poet comes up with, fog to endless. That is again a metaphor. We already referred to the fog. When there is fog, then we can't see even the other side. In thick fog, you can't see the other building next to yours. Roads are all blocked. Then fog is there, you can't even drive properly down the road. So what is their future like? The cramped holes. Their homes are cramped holes. I just showed you some pictures of their homes. They are not properly built houses. And so from fog to endless night, only darkness they have in their lives. There is no brightness. There is no hope. On their slag heap, these children wear skins peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel with mended glass, like bottle bits on stones. So again, the poet is going on, continuing with the narrating the misery in their lives. What is the misery? These children, malnutrition. They don't have proper growth. So skins peep through by bones. If you're not well fed, what will happen? You can see the bones through the skin, the way in some of the pics that I showed you. Spectacles of steel. Again, sir, it's alliteration, the sound, repeated sound. With mended glass like bottle bits on stone, here it's a simile and an alliteration. Bottle bits. Okay. So here again he's using a simile to compare like bottle bits on stones. You can just imagine stones and then bottle bits, broken bottle bits on it. This is the misery they are living in. All of their time and space are foggy slum. Okay. Again, another metaphor. The poet has very generously used a lot of figures of speech, similes, metaphors, alliteration, personification. He comes up with everything. Okay. All of their time and space are foggy slum. So blot their maps with slums as big as doom. Where is the brightness in their lives? Again, another simile here. Slums as big as doom. What is that? See, you would have heard what doom. What is doom? Everything comes to an end. Doomsday. You would have heard of doomsday. All right. So this is the miserable life. Again, he continues here, the way the children are living, the poor children in the slums. They're living in cramped holes. They have no hope. It's darkness around. Okay. Now in the last stanza, the poet brings about a change. He says something different. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs. Okay. So unless all the responsible people, all those who are in authority, the governor, the inspector, the visitor, who are responsible to improve their lives, okay, come in and bring them out of this darkness. This map will then become their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs. Down here the meaning is given. You can very well see, right? You can very well see here Tyrolese Valley, which is supposed to be one of those beautiful valleys in the Austrian Alpine province. And catacombs are actually tombs, right? So here he says it will shut upon them like tombs, like tombs. They will be buried there in their miserable lives in the slums. They cannot come out of it unless we help them. Break, oh, break open till they break the town and show the children to green fields and make their world run azure on gold sands and let their tongues run naked into books and white and green leaves open. History, theirs whose language is the sun. Beautiful. So although he starts with on a very sad note, he ends it with something positive. He says, if these people who are responsible, who have authority, come and do the real good for the children, what should they do? Break, oh, break, oh, break, oh, break, again repetition. Till they break the town and show the children to green fields. Give them the basic needs first. Bring them out of poverty. Bring them out of the slums. Give them food, clothing, and shelter. And show them the actual green fields and make their world run azure. What is azure? Light blue color, the light blue sky on gold sands. Imagine above you have the nice blue sky and down the beautiful golden sands of the sea. Then if you show them this kind of a brightness, bring them out of poverty, out of the slums, show them the actual world, give them that, then their tongues will run naked into books. Then the actual learning will take place. The white and green leaves open. There is brightness, there is hope in their lives if this happens. And then these kind of children who are given this opportunity will create history. History, theirs whose language is the sun. When you show them the actual brightness. Okay. So this is what is the message that the poet is giving us. All right. Quickly we'll run through the questions there. Again, I hope you're marking with your pen or pencil. The tall girl with her head weighed down means what? It means this. She has her head bent with shame. The paper seeming boy with rat's eyes means he's thin, hungry, and weak. The stunted, unlucky air of twisted bones means the boy has inherited a disability. His family suffers with it. Okay. And his eyes live in a dream, a squirrel's game in the tree room. Other than this means what? Distracted from the lesson. How can he concentrate? We saw about this little boy. He's not able to concentrate. He's thinking it's better if I be outside at least. The children's faces are compared to rootless weeds. They are ill-fed. I mentioned malnutrition. So what do you think is the color of sour cream? It is a dirty yellow color. Why do you think the poet has used this expression to describe the classroom walls? Neglected, not maintained, there's poverty around, no one is cared for it. The slum people on their own, they don't even have their basic needs fulfilled. They can't afford anything. Those in authority aren't taking care of them. The walls of the classroom are decorated with the pictures of Shakespeare, buildings with domes, world maps, and beautiful valleys. How do these contrast with the world of these children? Their world is filled with darkness, okay, only the slum, lead sky. There are no beautiful buildings, They can't relate to Shakespeare, who talks about the rich and beautiful things in the world. They can't see their slum in the world map. Neither can they relate to the beautiful valleys which they have never seen. For them, it's their slum. This word contrast here is something we all have to mark out in the last poem, that is the first poem, My Mother at 66. There also the poet talks about the contrast, the young and the old. So here it is the rich and the poor. What does the poet want for the children of the slums? He wants that they be brought out of poverty. How can their lives be made to change? Give them the basic needs, show them the actual world, bring about equality. Make them feel equal, not unwanted. This is the message that the poet is giving us. If you have already done the second lesson, Lost Spring, a lot of the ideas from this poem matches that. So if you have already done it, you'll be able to relate to how the poor have been described here in this poem and in that lesson. Notice how the poet pictures the condition of the slum children. Notice the contrasting images in the poem. For example, a narrow street sailed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. So to the rich, everything is fine. Rivers, capes, and learning. But to these people who are so poor, it is not possible. I hope you have got what the poet means and learnt the poem well. Okay? Keep learning. Enjoy. So keep watching Sessions with Judith John for more tips and inputs to excel and stand out. Text your doubts and queries in the comment box or mail me at sessionswithjudithjohn@gmail.com for online tutorial. You can also contact me on 8297970282 for personal online coaching or doubt clearing sessions as per your requirement. Do enjoy learning. Thank you and God bless you.